Sigma males have certain habits that no one else understands, despite the fact that they may seem strange or unusual to others. Characteristic of this personality type: people typically mistake Sigmas since they may have recognized some of these traits in themselves. Some actions may seem strange to you, but to you, they make perfect sense. These are 8 odd behaviors. Normal folks don't grasp the things that all Sigma guys have. First of all, in order to avoid being spotted, they choose seats at the rear. Have you ever seen that some individuals always choose the rear seats during meetings or classes? Male Sigmas have a tendency to do this. They tend to choose seats or locations where they can watch their surroundings without being in the limelight like alpha men, since they would rather observe than be the focus of attention. This may seem odd to others, but it's their way of feeling in control and at ease. If an occasion is boring, they can leave quickly without anyone noticing. They're the ones who prefer to keep quiet and let others take the lead, so they'll always choose the back of the room. This isn't because they're shy or don't want to participate. Rather, they feel like they can see the big picture better from there. It's like having the best of both worlds in a crowded room. They typically don't talk unless they have something important to say, so people may assume they're not paying attention to detail, but they're so perceptive that they frequently know more than others in the room. They're always there quietly listening and taking in everything, but you might not realize it because they're so quiet. They steer clear of unnecessary talk because they want to learn something, not because they don't care. Second, they disappear without explanation. Sigma guys, like ninjas, are able to blend in with the crowd without anybody noticing. They don't always say goodbye or provide an explanation for their departure, which might come out as impolite or odd to others. This is just their way of avoiding meaningless small chat or lengthy goodbyes. They don't feel pressured to remain because everyone else is, and they would rather go whenever it's convenient for them. They will discreetly dissolve if they've had enough or if the conversation's subject is dull. In the case of social media, they can suddenly delete all of their accounts without any prior notice, leaving others confused and wondering what went wrong. This is only a way for Sigma guys to simplify their life and free themselves from responsibilities that don't make them happy. Third, before sending a text message, they give it too much thought. They cherish their privacy and independence, so abruptly vanishing is simply another way for them to have more control over their choices. They just do what feels right for them, even if it looks odd to others. They don't feel the need to defend their actions to others since they don't require anyone's validation or approval. Have you ever noticed that sometimes you type something, delete it, and then write it again, but you never submit it? You are probably a Sigma if that is the case. These guys are known to overthink things, particularly when using technology to communicate. Before sending it out, they will meticulously compose each message and carefully consider each word. They don't want to seem too enthusiastic or make a statement that may be misunderstood. They may sometimes even choose not to send a message at all out of concern for the way it may be interpreted. They just want to make sure the message expresses precisely what they intend, since they are often misinterpreted. This isn't about those texts to close friends or family. Rather, it's about communicating with someone new or in a professional setting. It's funny because, to them, it's just a text, but they read it over and over again, changing a word here and adding a comma there. It's a little strange, but that's what they do. They put so much thought into a simple message that it seems like they're sending a hidden message in a bottle. What's even more surprising is that, sometimes, after all that overthinking, they might not even send the message. Instead, they put their phone away and consider calling them instead. This is a strange habit, but it's a part of their cautious and meticulous nature. They want to make sure everything is just right before they hit send number 4. They give one-word answers to end tedious conversations more quickly. Have you ever had to have a dull chat with someone who is always talking about something so dull? Time seems to be slowing down, and you may begin searching for a way out. Doesn't it become very annoying? When pushed into a dull discussion, Sigma guys feel like way. They may not be the most chatty individuals, but they can have a lively discussion when it's about something that interests them. However, if the subject is dull or unimportant, they will attempt to cut the conversation short as quickly as possible, and their standard answer is to say something like, cool, or interesting. They use these succinct answers as a means to finish a discussion nicely without having to continue. They don't think it's worth the effort to explain quantum physics to someone who doesn't care about science. Think about this maneuver the next time you're in a boring discussion. It may be the secret. Since most individuals like getting praise because it makes them feel like they accomplished something really amazing, they dislike it when you give them too much of it. But most males are a bit different. While it's good to be complimented when you've done something, getting too many praises may occasionally seem strange or fake. Because they already know their own worth and don't need others to reinforce their confidence, Sigma guys are often humble and don't need constant affirmation of their own greatness. They can tell when someone is merely trying to manipulate them by showing them a lot of flattery, which can make them uncomfortable. They will often try to avoid or minimize any praise, and they may even begin to doubt the sincerity of what they are saying. Getting too much attention can make them suspicious, especially if the person doesn't usually go out of their way to show them appreciation. They also don't want to be looked down upon or treated differently because of a few compliments. They would prefer to keep things low-key and not make a big deal out of it. What they truly value is when people pay attention to them and take their advice seriously. They believe that doing things well because it's the right thing to do, not for attention. Sixth, applause. In order to avoid small conversation, they hide from acquaintances. Everyone has seen how Sigma guys become invisible when they encounter someone they kind of know, like a neighbor who is often asking too many questions or a noisy colleague. They hate meaningless chatter and small talk, particularly from those boring folks who don't have anything of interest to say. They will make a special effort to avoid any encounter, such changing their path or suddenly showing a keen interest in reading the back of a cereal box at the supermarket. This may seem drastic, but it's only their way of avoiding something that drains them. They don't like talking about dull subjects only to be kind or to keep the parent-child bond intact. It feels meaningless to them. They don't want to spend time or energy on meaningless chats, but they also don't want to be impolite. Those encounters seem forced and artificial, which is why people hate them. If there is nothing significant to discuss, it is preferable to stay quiet. Because of this, they could look away or seem to be busy if they encounter someone they know but are not close to. They use this strategy to keep things straightforward and steer clear of a talk that doesn't significantly improve their day. Some people may find this odd, but it all depends on how they choose to spend their time. Seventh place, they silently assess people's word choices. Unbelievably, Sigma males pay considerable attention to what others are saying, not just to hear what is being said, but also to the way it is put together. They pay close attention to what others say and how they utilize it when they read and listen. They may reveal a great deal about a person's personality, intellect, and intentions. This is not to imply that they are judgmental based only on their language. Rather, it is a natural observation for them. Language is one of the things they pay attention to, but they keep it to themselves and don't discuss it. This may seem strange, but it demonstrates their meticulousness. They just have an excellent sense of how people express themselves. They are not attempting to be arrogant or flaunt their language. They also strive to grasp people's genuine motives and intentions by listening to what they have to say. They are thus resistant to being duped by charm or slick speech. They can see through the facade and will either shout it out or just mentally note it, making it very hard to control them with words. They are thus excellent at deciphering people's genuine motivations and reading between the lines. They may not always express their views verbally, but it doesn't imply they don't observe or the eighth care when it comes to disclosing private information or expressing their emotions. They never give away too much about themselves. Because they are naturally secretive, Sigma males may be quite reserved and would rather not discuss personal issues unless they feel that they are the center of attention. Others may find this perplexing, believing that these guys are concealing something, but in truth, they only respect their privacy and don't feel the need to provide personal information to anyone else. They only choose to notify those who need it. They can manage their own difficulties and don't want to bother others with them. They are also very independent and don't want to depend on anybody else for help. Because they aren't as outspoken as others, they may come off as mysterious, curious, or elusive, but this doesn't imply they don't have emotions or vulnerabilities. They just choose to keep them to themselves. They are also wary because they are not readily trusted. They have seen enough to know that others may be unpredictable and unreliable, so they would prefer to exercise caution and protect themselves from potential danger.